A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu for August 22nd looks like this. He joins me once again, Dr. Travian Scott of Southern University will join me in our number one. Of course, we will find a few things to talk about as relating to Southern University and the Southwestern Athletic Conference. As always, it's a pleasure to have Dr. Travian Scott on. Following Dr. Scott, shall I say, will be Coach Van Penaway. He'll join me in hour number two, right after the top of the hour break. And then, last but not least, Rod Walker. It's been a while since I've talked with Rod Walker of the New Orleans Advocate. He'll join me. We'll switch it up a little bit. We'll talk some NBA, some playoffs, some Pelicans, and a little bit of the NFL as far as the New Orleans Saints. That's the guest menu coming up on today's show. Here's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Big news this week, the Southwestern Athletic Conference releases the 2021 spring football schedule. Some of you still believe that, hey, I'll believe it when I see it. Will it happen? Well, Southwestern Athletic Conference, if it does happen, they have a schedule. And I've heard from some people already, you can't please all the people. And some have spoken via text message to me. They want to find out, they meaning Southern University, some of fans and alums, where is Jackson State University on this abbreviated spring schedule? They're not on the schedule. And it seems interesting, but there must be sacrifices made by all institutions in the conference. So SWAC releases the 2021 spring football schedule. Now, the MEAC announces plans for its spring football season and a first ever championship. Wow. We'll get into that article as well. And then finally, the NCAA votes to give extra year of eligibility to Division I fall athletes, and also Division I to work toward hosting a scale-back fall championships in the spring. Of course, I'll get the perspective and thoughts from guests today on that legislation released by the Southwestern Athletic Conference, the MEAC, and the NCAA votes to give an extra year of eligibility to Division I fall athletes. That is going to be interesting in itself. Let me say a pleasant good morning to Dr. Michael Prince. Dr. Prince, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you this morning, man?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I can't complain. Doesn't do any good anyway. Another day.
Yes, sir.
Amongst the living.
And I'm so glad for this other day. And the thing about it, we don't know what it's going to hold out, but I'm going to take advantage of every moment I have of this day to try to come out ahead.
And that is a good thing. And that is all that you can try to do. Be productive, sir, and have more good things and good days than bad days.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have some not so many good days, but hey, at the end of the day, the good has to outweigh the bad.
They got to outweigh the bad, brother, and that's why they say it's about the war and not the battles. Some battles you're going to struggle with from time to time, but the ultimate goal is to win the war. And to win the war, I'm not going to turn it into a Sunday morning sermon. It's to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things.
Oh, you could, and you also can save that for tomorrow in some form or fashion.
Yeah. You think I ought to jot that one down?
I got you. Oh, I got you. The SWAC releases the 2021 spring football schedule. It was announced all 10 SWAC schools for the upcoming 2021 spring football season. The schedule includes one non-conference open date for each team and conference contest scheduled each week beginning in week 1. Additionally, the league has designated a bye week for each team during the week of March 13th to ensure that fans and supporters have the opportunity to attend the Cricket Wireless men's and women's basketball tournament, which is scheduled for March 9th through the 13th. Each SWAC team will play six conference football games to include 4 games against division opponents and 2 games against non-division opponents. Each member institution will also have the option to play 1 non-conference game. The season will officially kick off the weekend of February 27th with 5 league games set to be played. Football season will culminate with the Cricket Wireless SWAC Championship game. The game is scheduled to be played on Saturday, May 1st. A quote by Tommy Henry, Senior Marketing Manager at Cricket Wireless. He simply says the 2019 edition of the Cricket Wireless SWAC Football Championship was an instant thriller broadcast live on ESPNU. We're excited to be back in the game for the upcoming season. We are proud to team up with the SWAC once again so that we can continue to grow our relationship with SWAC members while introducing our brand to students, alums, and fans. So, February 27th, we'll start the spring schedule. And when I have Dr. Travian Scott on, we'll talk with him about Southern University's schedule. But let me ask you this, Dr. Prince, from the Prairie View and other SWAC alums that maybe you've had some conversations with or interaction, what has been their thoughts?
Well, of course, everyone is excited, and it gives you, I guess, the scenario, you're on life support, and when it looked like things were going bad, then you get a good report that things are increasing to the positive side of things, and people got this shot in the arm, and the buzz of football was back in the air, and people are excited about the potentials. There was a little flip-flop in the schedule. Instead of opening up with Texas Southern, Prairie View would open up with Grambling State. And I actually got a chance to speak with Coach Clarence McKinney. He said it didn't matter when they played because you still got to play them. But there is a shot of electricity running throughout not only PV Nation but SWAC Nation as a whole. And once again, you tip your cap to Coach, but Dr. McClellan for having the vision, and the leadership of putting this out. Because what it did, if it didn't do anything else, it forced the hands of other conference, and you'll talk about it as you brought it up at the opening of the show of the MEAC. They're going to have to produce something to show that they're at least thinking about the future, because if you don't do anything, it's going to send a signal to your fan base that you just threw in the towel and gave up altogether.
Yeah, it is excitement, and as I stated earlier, you can't please everybody, but in the grand scheme of things, if it starts and you have the spring football schedule, among with all the other sports, and again, this is based on having COVID-19 numbers, declining, and that is a challenge in itself. And we've all talked about how each and every one of us can do our part, because if you look at, and here has been a big challenge so far when students have come back to campuses, you've noticed now that there have been some spikes. And University of North Carolina, Pittsburgh, to name a few of many, that are now seeing rises in COVID-19 cases. So, with that being said, it is good to have a plan in place in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. As you stated, under the leadership of Dr. McClellan, they were the front runners on a lot of this. And so we have to applaud them for that as well. And speaking of Dr. McClellan, a quote associated with Dr. McClellan, the SWAC Council of Presidents and Chancellors, Sports Administrators Committee, COVID-19 Advisory Committee, along with our fall sports scheduling groups, have worked tirelessly over recent months to get to the point where we're able to announce a significant part of the rescheduling of our fall sports. And that's the quote from Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan. So you can go on swag.org and you can look at the football week by week. Week 1, February 27th. This is football. Alcorn State at Alabama A&M, Southern at Alabama State, Mississippi Valley State at Jackson State, Texas Southern at Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Prairie View A&M versus Grambling State Fair Classic. Now, some people have asked about, and everybody's scheduled to have 3 home games. Alabama A&M, the Magic City Classic, the Bayou Classic. You got the State Fair Classic. It's still up in the air as far as where, and I can speak on Southern and Grambling State. Southern's the home team where that game is going to be. And I'm sure no decision has been made yet. Well, it hasn't been decided, but I will definitely ask Dr. Travian Scott, where are they in regards to the conversation with that? Prairie View A&M and Grambling State. Who's the home team for the State Fair Classic?
The State Fair Classic this year has Grambling, I believe, stated as the home team. And right now it's indecisive. I do have scheduled for our Sunday Night Live edition of the Mike Prince Show, Coach Eric Dooley, and we'll surely to address that on tomorrow night. Now,
one thing we know, it's going to be played. If
the schedule holds true, the game will be played. I do know when I spoke with the promoter, Al Wash, a couple of months ago, he was stating that the game would still be at the Cotton Bowl. Now, it's going to be determined with everything being pushed back the way it is if they flip it to the home campuses. My guess is that would be the more logical thing to do. But once again, we'll get an official statement, at least from the surface, from Coach Dooley, and then we'll follow up with promoter Al Wash to keep the people informed.
Yeah. So those games, and when I kind of had a conversation with Coach Pettaway earlier this week, that was the conclusion that we came with. It's probably, it hasn't been decided yet, even with the Magic City Classic, what they're going to do. But we'll keep an eye out on it, and we'll give you that information. Now, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference announced its plans for spring football season, includes first ever championship game. And that is interesting in itself. The Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference has unveiled a scheduling model for how fall sports could be played in the spring 2021. How fall sports could be played, depending on the status of COVID-19 pandemic and the NCAA scheduling guidelines for fall championships being played in the spring. Each individual institution can opt out of competing in the spring based on local and state COVID-19 conditions. The action follows the conference announcement in July that the fall season would be suspended. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, president of Howard University and the chair of the MEAC, presidents and chancellor, said, although it's still too early to tell if the coronavirus conditions will improve fast enough to allow us to reconvene spring sports, we want to be prepared with a plan of action. So next spring, the football teams will play a slate of 6 regional conference games with teams split into divisions. The season will span from February 27th through April 24th, with a championship game set for May 1st. And then they have the volleyball season in the spring semester and potentially span from the first weekend of January through February, with the MEAC Volleyball Championship being held the weekend of March 13th through the 14th in Norfolk, Virginia. A regional schedule will be implemented for men's and women's basketball, men's and women's tennis, baseball, softball. And that is some of the information coming from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. The divisional breakdown will be as follows. Northern Division, Coppin State, Delaware State, Howard, Maryland, Eastern Shore, Morgan State, Norfolk State. Southern Division, Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, North Carolina A&T State, North Carolina Central, and South Carolina State. Commissioner Dennis Thompson said, as has been the case since this pandemic started in March, the health and safety of our student athlete, coaches, university staff, and fans are paramount. So that's interesting. They have a plan in place.
Very interesting.
If they're able to play. And then, of course, North Carolina A&T moving to another conference.
The Big South.
In the championship and some of the conversation, where would it be? And pretty much the team that has the best record would host on campus. It's one of the things that were discussed.
It would definitely follow the model that the SWAC has established. And more than this spring, I think it's part of the MEAC's attempts of rebranding themselves as their football goes and getting ready for the future, for life without the Aggies, without Bethune, without FAM. And I'm wondering, are they going to hold fast to that new model once those institutions officially depart?
It's going to be tough right now at this point, but I think their situation will evolve, and they're going to have to come up with a solid, concrete plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear a lot of the discussions about someone will move up from Division II, and we know kind of the financial hardship of doing that.
Negative.
Then, excuse me?
I said negative. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Then
they're talking about looking at outside. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a known fact that financially it's tough. And then some universities just said, we're not interested. We want to stay where we're at.
Well, the money and time is what the MEAC are facing up against right now, because for the time for Division II to transition up to Division I, it's going to cost some money, plus it's going to be a 2 to 4 year window. That is not leaning in favor of the MEAC. So what they're going to have to do is corral the 6 remaining schools. I don't think you would necessarily go into divisions, but you can go like a seeding, a round robin seeding, maybe have your top 4 in some type of playoff structure to try to process, or just go with the top team to represent in the Celebration Bowl. But it's really a challenging time for the conference and Commissioner Thomas.
And I think, in my personal opinion, they're going to have to really do their homework. It's a tough situation. It's going to be tough. And, just expanding, I'm not saying that they're expanding just for expansion, but you got to have the right fit.
Well,
with this conference, to me, and guests that I've had on, they believe that they're going to survive, and that may be the case, but
they're going to survive because
their plan. They got to come up with the right plan going forward.
I think they're going to survive, but they're going to have to transition from survival mode, and they'll survive just because of the tradition and the history of HBCUs. They've always been able, for whatever reason, whatever the circumstances are, to fight themselves out of a jam. But they have to get through survival mode to get to, let's say, the rising of the Phoenix mode. And how do you go and where do you go from here? And so with them stepping out into the deeper end of the waters, starting off with divisions, because who would have ever thought that they'd be talking divisions from the MEAC side of things? They've always been against that, and they've always said, we do things different over here at the MEAC. Well, guess what? That's going to hold true now. They're going to have to do things different in order to get somewhat relevant and back on the map as far as moving forward.
See, I don't want to say it's a temporary quick fix because long term, is this going to be a plan that they're going to use going forward? When you get past this pandemic, will it be a MEAC football championship in place permanently? This you really don't know.
See,
at this moment,
right at this moment, it's hard to say. But if you're going forward in the future, when the reality sets in July 21, that you have 6 football teams in your conference, is there going to be a need for a championship game? Because you're going to play everybody, right? And so unless you just have it where one plays 2 for a winner-take-all championship game, you could have that. Or does the number 1 seed go and represent, like they've done in times past, the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl? But I think the dark horse for me in all of this, a lot of people are not paying attention, but Delaware State has made some power moves way up there on the northern part of the country. They've just acquired another university right down the street from them that had athletics, including football, and they're going to be merging athletes together, and they just instantly got a pool of athletes. We're talking about football, but across the gamut, that's going to enhance or should enhance their athletic program rather instantly.
Well, I think we shall look and see and monitor that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a naysayer, but what they are going to have to do, they're going to have a solid plan for the future and growth and everything, and got to have the right fit.
Let me ask you this, Carlos.
Under the leadership, Mr. Thomas, they really have their work cut out for them.
No doubt about it. The question I want to ask you was this. If you are the MEAC or you're a MEAC follower, who then becomes that face of the MEAC conference? What institution? Let's be honest, as far as brand recognition goes throughout the entire country, it would be safe to assume that when people see the black and gold G, they know that that's Grambling State University, right? As far as the SWAC. Now, all of us have our respect and perspectives on who would be the quote unquote voice or the darling of the SWAC. But let's just say, just because of the legacy of Eddie Robertson, that is Grambling. Who now becomes that brand or that poster child for the MEAC? Which remaining institution is going to pick up that mantle that A&T is gone?
That's a good question. I would have to think on that. I couldn't tell you right now.
Mm-hmm. If you just go with name, branding, and recognition, most people would probably lean toward Howard. But Howard, from the research that I've gathered and spoken with people off the record, they're not as fine-tuned into athletics as it would need to be to take on that position of the conference. Others are saying South Carolina State could end up being that poster child for the MEAC.
Like I said earlier, they have their work cut out for them. And I'm sure, I mean, when I think about Howard, believe it or not, academics, that's the first word that comes to my mind.
Right.
And not athletics.
Right.
So I'm sure they'll get it done. They'll get it done, and they'll do their homework. And I wish them the best. I really do.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The MEAC unveiled a scheduling model for how fall sports could be played in the spring 2021. The NCAA Board of Directors voted Friday to give all fall sports student athletes an additional year of eligibility and an additional year to complete it through a blanket waiver. The move eliminates a cloud of uncertainty for athletes in fall sports whose seasons have been postponed or could be disrupted because of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, as it is still a possibility with college football in 6 FBS conferences. The extra year of eligibility, which was recommended to the board of directors earlier this week by the NCAA Division I Council, was just one of several decisions Friday intended to further protect student athletes during COVID-19. And then the article on ESPN.com by Heather Dinich, ESPN senior writer. You can read the article for further information, but they have a quote in there from West Virginia Athletic Director Shane Lyons, who is the chair of the Football Oversight Committee, said the top question he has received from student athletes has been regarding their eligibility during a season of uncertainty. Quote, by providing clarity and removing that uncertainty from their minds is something that's going to be very beneficial as we move forward. Not having a normal season, not having that normal 20 games in soccer or 28 matches in volleyball and even football, not sure what that season is going to look like. That was the number one concern that the student athletes had, was the eligibility piece. Now, from a director of athletics position, how do you make the numbers work? You have seniors, some that will, of course, graduate this December. You'll have some that will graduate in the spring. Of course, you're still recruiting. You're bringing in freshmen on your roster. I'm sure they'll make it work some kind of way. But I'll ask Dr. Scott his thoughts on how Southern University, what are their thoughts and perspective on the NCAA and their ruling this past week.
I see potential disaster.
Well, somehow I knew you would.
No, seriously, two things that'll pop up. Okay, you award the blanket extension of eligibility. A, how does it get paid for? Who pays for it? And then B, watch your transfer portals explode. Because incoming freshmen, sophomores, they were promised a couple of years ago that they would have the opportunity, but then you get this extra year. And let's be honest, today's student athlete, they are very impatient and they want it right now. And I can just see an exodus going toward the transfer portal.
That's interesting.
Well, we can ask Brother Scott about that.
I definitely will, because I know every situation may be different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for Southern University, Mississippi Valley, Alabama A&M, Alabama State. And by the way, he's coming up in a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
And I'll definitely ask him about that. But you see potential problems, big time.
Yes. Well, now
Correct?
I say challenges. Let's just say challenges, because we know it's all going to boil down to the Jerry Maguire moment. Show me the money. Show me the money. Okay, I have this extra year eligibility. Then you got, remember, the transfer students who are coming in. They may have already graduated. The educational piece has not stopped. It's the athletic piece that has stopped. So when these guys are steady getting their graduation, you get a kid that graduates and he wants to play, or a kid that's working on their master's, they want to play. Then you got the freshman, sophomore who've been patiently waiting their time. It's going to create a challenge.
And, you know, somebody emailed me, gave me a comment about, you know, grad transfers, you know, that especially that have already graduated and they're going for their masters and they still have some athletic eligibility left. We'll have to look at that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, our schools are, as Coach Banks would say, low resource schools.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it will affect our schools differently than Power 5, a Group of 5.
No doubt about it.
Conference. But Dr. Scott's coming up. If you want to email me, you can do so at the Coles Brown Show at gmail.com. Also, the Coles Brown Show Facebook Messenger page is open. A lot of you like to send messages via that way. Coles Brown Show on all points on social media. And also, I want to say a special thanks to Arthur Besley for a donation to the Coles Brown Show last week. I really appreciate it. And again, always support Black media, Black sports media. Support all of us. No one can tell the story like we can. So we appreciate that. Thanks again, AD. Also, I want to say this because, and I take it in the spirit that it was given to me, and I appreciate the person that sent me a text message that basically said, refer to Bethune-Cookman as Bethune-Cookman University. And I said Bethune-Cookman College. So charge that you can charge that one to my head, because you're absolutely right. Bethune-Cookman University. That's the way I should have referenced Bethune-Cookman as university, not Bethune-Cookman College. So, with that being said, going to get ready for my first guest, Dr. Travian Scott. He's coming up as the first guest on the Coles Brown Show. And I definitely always appreciate Dr. Scott coming on. And we're going to talk with him about the spring schedule, get his thoughts. Also, going to ask him about the decision on the Bayou Classic. When will that, and I know that's ongoing, but the latest information on that. Now, also, we'll ask him about the NCAA extra year of eligibility to Division I fall athletes, and also the challenges, because everybody has a plan. Now that students are back on campus and we're seeing the cases spiking already on campuses, I'm going to ask him, how has the plan that Southern University put in place, albeit school has started, how's it going so far? Any concerns? Is it still a fluid situation where even with a plan, you got to be flexible with that plan and evaluate it constantly? That's some of the things I'll talk with Dr. Travian Scott. Take a time out. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wackenmaster Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association, or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia 23602. The email address is SWAC Alumni Association @yahoo.com.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My next guest, my first guest actually, Deputy Athletic Director for Southern University, Dr. Travian Scott. Dr. Scott, good morning to you. Welcome once again.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you on. And as we often have stated, you guys are in a tough business, but you seem to enjoy it very much, and it's just that. It's never a dull moment, Dr. Scott, when you're in the athletic department.
Never. You know what? Things are almost changing daily with regard to rules in athletics and COVID, whether that be at the SWAC and the FCS level or the Power 5 institutions across the country. So, we're taking it one day at a time. The goal and the mission remains the same, to make sure we take care of our student athletes and make sure that we educate them on, what's going on with COVID and, help them to be able to realize why they came to school in the first place, obviously to get an education and to make sure that they can do that in as safe of an environment as possible. And then try to move them gradually into preparing themselves for their season. So things are changing on a daily basis, but we're prepared for it. Obviously, I've spoken at length on your show many times about having plans and alternative plans and tertiary plans and any other plan you want to think of. But there is a plan for a plan, and then a plan for that plan. So the things that we can control, and we move forward again with the student athlete in mind, and that's how we've been doing it. And we'll continue to do that.
Well, if you're just tuning in, I would say that was a opening statement by Dr. Scott, and I actually agree with it. Again, I always appreciate you and Coach Banks, the transparency when you come on the show, so I appreciate it. So with that being said, Dr. Scott, big news, spring schedule was released by the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Want to get your initial thoughts on that spring schedule and, of course, football, specifically what we're talking about. How do you feel about it for as a representative of Southern University?
You know what? Not bad. I think it gives us an opportunity to have a season. It puts us in a position where we're not overly taxing our young men, giving them the opportunity to play those, 8-9 games over a 12-week period and give them the ability to recover over a summer. Of course, now we haven't brought up what we're going to do in terms of whether or not we're going to start the fall on time, but I think that gives them a good balance as it relates to, again, their health and safety. Obviously, football is a physical game. I think it aligns well with our academic calendar. I think, it gives our young men the opportunity to get off to a fast start academically and try to sustain their academics in a way where football, really gives them at that point the ability to have some normalcy and a rhythm to their daily routine. Because as you know, athletes are really habit seeking, right? So they're highly structured and they have to have things in a certain order. So it gives us that. In terms of the competitive balance of the schedule, obviously, with having a SWAC schedule, I don't necessarily have to go into that part. We got 2 home games technically we have 3, as the Bayou Classic will be the home team. But it gives us an opportunity to play a league schedule. It gives us an opportunity to go out to the Houston area where we've got a large pocket of alums on 2 occasions. This year. It gives us the ability to have a game early in the conference season in Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then finish up with our arch rival, or one of our arch rivals, Alcorn State, on the home slate. And so I think all in all, the conference is doing an outstanding job with taking every issue into account. And you all may not see it, but if you go down and look, I believe that's week 3. Everybody in the conference has an open week. And when you really look at that, you may ask why. Well, that's the weekend of the basketball tournament. So they've kept everything in mind as it relates to being able to push the SWAC as a brand forward, but also without overlooking the student athlete, what they need in terms of academics, and of course what we all want to see, which is our young men on the field being as competitive as they can be for the institution. So overall, great job by the league. Our athletic directors, our senior women administrators get together as a highly skilled group. I actually have a unique opportunity to join those calls, and really in a listening capacity, I give my opinion, but only to Coach Banks. But you get the opportunity to really listen in and try to see the thought process in the league and the leadership, and what our ADs and our SWAs do is phenomenal. Obviously, there's not a one-size-fits-all model for COVID response and how to move athletics forward. Obviously, we have different municipalities and state laws and rules and regulations as it relates to COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic. And our athletic directors and our leadership at the conference office has done an outstanding job. We're trying to balance all of those things. So kudos to the league, kudos to what we call our sports management committee, our SWAs, and our directors of athletics.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. Dr. Scott, there's always sacrifices that have to be made. And when I was setting up this interview, we exchanged text messages, and I think I said something to the fact you can't please everybody. But Jackson State, of course, Southern fans, how they feel special about that game. Bayou Classic. When will you know where that game will be played? I know it's an ongoing situation. When is there a time frame that maybe you guys will look at to try to finalize where it will be played?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we'll meet. I am a member of the Bayou Classic committee, so we'll meet. I think it's in another week or 2. There should be a decision made before the end of September at the latest. Okay. There's some things to work out with regard to, again, what New Orleans' rules and regulations would be in terms of social distancing. Obviously, the Saints are playing in the Superdome. We hadn't yet got any guidance on what that's going to look like in terms of how they're going to be able to move forward with the stadium population as far as ingress and egress into and out of the stadium and what that protocol looks like. But also there's been talks about the Superdome undergoing a renovation this spring. So those are just some things that we'll discuss here in a couple of weeks. And we have had some conversations with alternate sites, but New Orleans at this time has the first right of refusal. I think I heard you mention something about Jackson State.
Not on the schedule.
Not on the schedule. Every Southern fan and every Jackson fan that I know has been killing my inbox about our rivalry. We always talk about Grambling being more of a family rival and Jackson being more of a heated rival. So obviously you have that there. But we're not 100% committed to not playing Jackson at this time. So we're still having some conversations, not only with Jackson but other institutions as well, about adding one more contest. So that story, as my grandma would say, has yet to be written. And so we're still obviously going through and trying to vet if we want to take on the responsibility of adding an additional contest, whether that be Jackson State or some of the other opponents that we're discussing. hadn't yet been finalized yet. But we're having conversations about possibly adding another game to the schedule. So we'll see.
How difficult would that be? I understand about, the COVID's going on, and hopefully things are going to be better where there's opportunity to do that. Is there a financial component to bringing in another game? And particularly, you want to have a home game if you could, correct?
Well, again, that depends. A.W. Mumford seats about 25,000. I've seen reports where A.W. Mumford seated as many as 28,500. I can tell you that's incorrect. So, when you're looking at it in the grand scheme of things, if the state regulations at the time says that we can only put, 25 or 50% total capacity in the stadium at 25,000, and you have to adequately social distance, I had it down to about 5,000. The number sounds great until you have to, obviously separate people every 6 feet, and you got 18-inch seats, and you're trying to, do things for families. Obviously, if you have a family, you're used to being around each other, so you could possibly put those 4 individuals seated directly next to each other, but you can't put the next person from the next household within a 6-foot radius. So that begins to present problems as well. We've had some conversations about really leveraging our jag zone and trying to do some things there with regard to, again, 4-person seating or household seating, as we call it. And so, it does present a semblance of an issue. So you have to take that and keep that in mind as it relates to being able to bring in an opponent and having to support the game's infrastructure by way of ushers and ticket takers and concessions and parking attendants and things of that nature, which really can shift the balance of what the bottom line looks like at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So, and that really goes into a lot of those conversations, and that's what I spoke of earlier. It has to be something that really makes sense fiscally for us. It has to really make sense first and foremost for our student athletes and their health, safety, and welfare. It has to be within state rules and regulations as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. And if we could get those things squared away, then there could be a good possibility for us to be able to have another contest. Now, again, I don't know if that looks like a home contest or us traveling to another institution, but all of those things will be kept in mind when that decision is being made.
Wow, Dr. Scott, I tell you what, I just got a message. Said, tell Dr. Scott thanks. We'll see you in Jackson. Wow. Would you think that was a Jackson state?
Tell him he calls it Jackson. Tell him he calls it Jackson. We call it here Baton Rouge, Mississippi. So tell him he's welcome. Tell him if that happens, he's absolutely welcome.
Oh boy, you gotta love it. Don't you just love this conference? I tell you. Yeah, family show. And speaking of family, a listener says, will the first semester grades count against the fall sports athletes, specifically football, since traditionally the summer semester combined with the previous spring semester determine their previous eligibility?
So we've not gotten any change on bylaw 14.35, I believe it is, percentage to degree requirements. And I'm going to be honest, we have a standard at Southern University in athletics academics. So whether or not that guidance changes, it doesn't matter. We hold our student athletes to the highest standards academically, and we're going to move forward with in that specific order. So, whether or not the NCAA changes the rules and regulations as it relates to our student athletes and what they do in terms of, relaxing progress toward degree requirements, we have a standard in our department where our student athletes are expected to go to class, sit in the first 3 rows, participate, submit assignments early, not on time, and complete to the best of their ability. So the short answer is I hadn't received any of that guidance. The long answer is we have a standard put in place to where it doesn't matter. We're going to do things academically like we've done here in the last couple of years with 155 student athletes with 3.0s or above for the year, and a departmental GPA of 3.02, Coming up this year, all of our teams over a 930 benchmark, and 7 of those teams with perfect APR scores. So we do those things, reaching the guidelines and the standards set forth through the leadership of our institution and our department, and making Southern athletics the best they can be all around. Obviously, a part of that is academics. So, what the NCAA says and what they offer in terms of what the minimum requirements are great, but we don't set out to establish minimum requirements. So we're going to continue to, like I said, do the things that we do. We're going to continue to really become that model that we spoke about many years ago when we were going through some of our difficulties with APR and those things. They've been well documented and discussed really all over the country for quite some time. But now we're to the point now where we're everybody's darling in terms of being able to right the ship, so to speak, academically. So minimums to me don't matter. Reaching the standard and maintaining the standard does, and that's what we're going to do academically, athletically, and in the community in Southern athletics.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. Speaking of NCAA, again, my next comment to you is NCAA extra year of eligibility to Division I athletes. The impact and your thoughts on that, Dr. Scott.
Kudos to the NCAA. I can honestly tell you I'm not surprised. I almost consider myself a surrogate employee. As much time as I spend in Indy and as much time as I spend, speaking with the different constituencies up there, the different subcommittees. I was actually on the subcommittee and did some subcommittee work for the NCAA as well. The NCAA has now changed its tune to where they're really starting to hear the membership, right? And not just the autonomy conferences, not just the big, the Power Fives with the $100 million athletic budgets, but everybody now has a seat at the table, even across divisions, 1, 2, or 3. But I think it really, really spoke well, not just to the leadership of the NCAA, but to the membership to be able to ensure that our student athletes obviously could continue to live their dreams and get the opportunity. We call this the 4 for 40 initiative, right? You have a 4-year window for the next 40, 50 years of your life, 60, 70, if you live to be 80 or 90 years old. And so, with that, you got a very small window. And the NCAA has now stepped forward and, we want to give the student athletes the opportunity to really finish what they start. And for a lot of our sports, again, going back to academics, the academics aren't the issue. But you potentially losing that year competitively wasn't really fair to the student athletes. So I think it's great. I think, it gives our student athletes the ability, if they want to pursue sport for an additional year, or if they want, to go in, to professional sports, if they have that opportunity, or start to go into their professional careers. And so it gives the student athlete really the decision-making ability over what they want to do to end their college career. So I think they did a great job in that regard. I support it. We had some conversations about it, again, at the NCAA level. I thought it was a great touch. And so I'm happy that the Board of Governors decided to vote in favor of it and push it through.
A follow-up, Dr. Scott. With that being said, the situation at Southern University, you'll have, some seniors graduating, I guess, this December, and then of course you're recruiting and bringing in, new student athletes. How do you balance all of that?
You know what? It takes dollars. My guess, and we haven't gotten any guidance on it, and those things are going to be pushed out every day. But I think it's going to be a lot like baseball. Where obviously you've got student athletes who have the ability to come back and finish an additional year, but you also have the responsibility, if you're a coach, of being able to bring the next crop of student athletes into your program. So how do you balance the two? I'm thinking it's going to be similar to baseball with regard to it not counting against those overall limits. For football, you've got 85 scholarships that you can spread over 63 individuals. And so it gives us the ability, if that happens, to potentially be able to go over that 85 number to bring back those student athletes who want to opt in while not affecting that 85 scholarship limitation. Now, what does that look like? Well, if it doesn't affect the scholarship limits, it has to affect something, and that would be the budget. So, and that's why, we've been very aggressive with fundraising and doing some of the things that we've been doing with our virtual day of giving and our varsity clubs and those things. We've got a robust corporate sponsorship program, obviously, to really go back and to put those resources back into the student athletes, into the individual athletic programs. And so that's what we're thinking. That's what we're preparing for. Obviously, with not having games and being able to bring revenue in the fall, you find yourself at a bit of a shortfall. But we have a plan for that. We had a unique opportunity again a couple of weeks ago to raise over $125,000 in a day. And it really wasn't a day. It was a couple of hours. I think we went 11 to 12, 1 to 2, and 6 to 8. So 4 hours total. And had the opportunity to really get out in a virtual setting, and engage with our stakeholders and engage with our corporate sponsors and in the name of enhancing the student athlete experience. And so we got a plan for it. That goes into it. And I know you all get tired of hearing me say we plan. But some things, you can forecast and some things you have to adapt and adjust to. Us knowing kind of what they've done with baseball kind of gives us the ability to do a little bit of forecasting. And then, if we fall short in what our estimates are, then we'll adjust and adapt and overcome. So we're prepared for it, ready for it. We hope our student athletes enjoy the most of their opportunity. They get the opportunity to opt in. Of course, we're not going to force their hand. We want them to come and enjoy the last of their student athlete experience because we want them to come back and inevitably give to the next crop of student athletes. So it's important for us that they enjoy that experience while they're here.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer, COO at Southern University. And speaking of students and the student athletes, of course, Dr. Scott, students are coming back on campuses all across the country at Southern University as well. And you're talking about a plan. Everybody has a plan, but sometimes those plans have to evolve. And with students being back on campus, your plan so far, how is it working, dealing with now the students interacting with student athletes?
So our plan is a little, it's not a little, it's a lot different really than everybody else's. I've heard of some schools who, for their fall sports, they left a lot of their student athletes at home. We didn't do that. Obviously, with the ability to move many of our courses to hybrid or online, obviously we've taken advantage of that. But we've done something that's a little different from the other 9 institutions in our league and the other 11. If you count FAMU and Baton, who I've had extensive discussions with it, we're not doing anything right now in terms of athletics. So we're on 100% shutdown. Every athletic facility, every weight room, even academic center, we're doing everything virtually. And for us, it gives us an opportunity to, one, get our student athletes acclimated with college, similar to what you do in football. Obviously, football doesn't just walk out there on the first day and pass. It's a process. But also, try to establish some baselines in regards to COVID-19 testing and develop the frequencies and protocols of what that looks like, right? And so our student athletes now are being tested every 7 to 10 days, even though our facilities are closed. With respect to treatment and those things, we're still addressing pre and post-op procedures in our training room. But we're not doing anything else in that regard. So our student athletes right now are really on their own with regard to if they're working out individually, but we're still doing things to be able to test them to get them ready, fully anticipating that our student athletes are going to be college students somewhere close to Labor Day. And so once that Labor Day period passes, then again, we've already adjusted and had them adapted to the frequency of tests, what that looks like. And then we're going to start the process of working out and beginning to do individual workouts and strength and conditioning in small groups. And so that process is already set forth. For example, basketball. We'll only bring in 4 young men at a time, right, for a certain period of time, 2 on one end, 2 on the other. Of course, with those 4 young men being roommates and only being able to work with that coach. They'll work with their own set of basketballs. Like, we actually thought that much through it. Their own set of water bottles. They have to get dressed in their apartment. So we're not using our washing facility. They're not using the locker rooms and things of that nature to ensure that we keep, the transmission of fluids and droplets and those things to a minimum. Coaches have to wear masks. We have to wear masks in our facility. Football, when we start football workouts, obviously our weight room will only be able to hold 10 football student athletes at a time. We move most of our operation outside. So we'll have basically an outdoor weight room and doing things of that nature. Baseball, the same thing. We'll do 4-man. Softball, 4 of our young ladies. Cheer, even. We sponsor cheer and athletics now. We'll have the opportunity where they'll work in groups. They won't do any tumbling. Volleyball, same thing. They'll use different balls. And so, we've thought through this thing for where we have separate protocols for each one of our sports. Obviously, when you're coming in the building, one entrance to come in, one entrance to leave, hand sanitizer, mask required, taking temperatures at the door. Of course, being able to address signs and symptoms and knowing and understanding and having an education on what that looks like, and being able to immediately address if a student athlete shows symptoms. If they live in the same apartment and one student athlete develops COVID symptoms, what does that look like during the process that their student athlete is awaiting the results from his test, and from the standpoint of his health, safety, and welfare, and the health, safety, and welfare of their roommates. And so we've thought through this thing quite a bit. Obviously, we've got our own set of facilities and spaces where our student athletes can go and sleep if they're quarantining. We have a quarantine kit now, working in conjunction with Baton Rouge Orthopedic and Care South, where our student athletes have a kit if they test positive during that 14-day quarantine. We've got, we mandate that our student athletes have 2 negative tests during that 14-day period in order for them to be reintroduced into the athletics population. So I can go on and on and on about the different things that we're doing. I'll keep going. We're not doing any oral swabs. We're 100% nasal tests at this time, which we think gives us the best ability to eliminate as many false positives or false negatives as possible. And so we're going above and beyond with regard to understanding to the best of our ability COVID-19 and its effects on our student athletes, but also to ensure that in the event that a student athlete tests positive for COVID-19, that we're able to corral it and it not be spread across the population.
Well, that is a detailed plan, just from the outside looking in my humble opinion, Dr. Scott. As always, it has been a pleasure having you on, giving out the information. Now, usually at the end of a conversation like last week with Coach Banks, he mentioned about yoga, participating in yoga. Are you a part of that? So, yes or no? I'll go, but I won't participate. He invited me. See how far I run. Listen. I'm doing about 5 to 7 miles in the morning and about 3 to 6 miles in the evening. And so, by the time they go to yoga, I'm beat. So I have just enough energy to stand in there and watch them do it. Right. So, I go. And one of these days, I'm actually going to participate. But man, it's hot in there. It may be hotter in there than it is outside. Yeah, but yeah, they do a great job over at Yoga 360. She's worked with many of our student athletes. Coach Banks does it. Coach Woods does it. Our basketball team does it. Our women's basketball team's going in. Our soccer young ladies did it last week, and so I'm definitely there. But I hadn't yet tipped my toe in the water. So I'll get there one day. I'll muster up enough courage to get it done. I'll be right behind you. Except for have medical personnel on site. Yes, indeed. But Appreciate you, Dr. Scott. I was going to ask you about your favorite NBA team, but I'll save that for next time.
I'll say it. Lake Show, baby. Lake Show.
The Lake Show. Okay. Well,
I am a real Lakers fan, not a LeBron Laker fan, not a Kobe Laker fan. I grew up with the Magics and the AC Greens and the Michael Coopers and I keep going, the Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel, like right before Shaq came. Hey, I'm a diehard. So
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, I was a little young for him, but I remember him.
Yeah,
Kareem. And I was a little young, but you know, I've been a Laker fan for quite some time. You know, it was great to see obviously Kobe Bryant and what he was able to do in the league coming from high school. That kind of made it better for me, obviously, with you know what they went through and with the days of the pre-Shaq days. And so they were up, they were down, they were up again, they were down, and now we're up again. So hopefully we can finish this thing on off. Portland's giving us a stitch right now. So those guards they have are really hard to keep in front of you. They put a lot of pressure on the defense. So, you know, hopefully we can get through it.
All I'm going to say is keep AD healthy and have games like he had the last game. And I was a Laker fan. I've been told I'm a turncoat. I'm a Miami Heat fan. I left when Shaq left. So, you know, it is what it is. Great, young, up-and-coming, talented Miami Heat team, and you got to love Jimmy Butler. He is a tough cookie. Well, Dr. Scott, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk again real soon.
Looking forward to it. As always, go Jags.
And stay safe as well. That was Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer for Southern University. Now take a quick time out. We're into hour number 2 of today's show. Coming up, Coach Van Pettaway. And then following Coach Pettaway, Rod Walker. Rod Walker has an interesting article about the NBA. When a team is up 3-0, just go ahead and call a series. Percentage says over 80% of the teams that go down 0-3, they don't come back. There have been exceptions. But that's an interesting take. Rod, don't hold your breath on that one. It won't happen. Tradition. But it's an interesting thought. It's outside the box. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you know, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Chris, can you put the...
Come on.
Laptops, MP3 players, cameras, video games, cell phones. In times like these, schools can become a shopping mall for thieves. Don't become a victim of crime. Leave your valuable stuff at home, and if you do have to bring them to school, keep them with you. Write down their serial numbers, and don't flash expensive items around. Be smart. If you have something cool, there's a good chance someone else will want it too. Keep cash and ATM cards in a secure place, and never give anyone your PIN number. And don't leave your school bag lying around where it can become a temptation to someone else. If you have something stolen, report the situation immediately. The sooner you tell someone, the better the chance you'll get it back. Visit ncpc.org to learn more about how to prevent school theft. That's ncpc.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
At 17 cents a day, you can make a huge impact on our local and regional high school and college student athletic coverage. We provide talk shows, live game coverage, and much, much more. But we need your support to move forward. Visit our website today at obnradio.com. Click on the PayPal button, which is safe and secure, and become a listening partner today. At 17 cents a day, you can make a huge impact. 17 cents a day comes out to $60 a year. Will you become part of the Open Mic Broadcast Network team? Visit that website at obnradio.com and become a listening partner today. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My weekly visit with the good coach, Coach Van Pettaway. We've found him. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Carlos, I'm happy to be here, man.
You're doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing my second favorite thing. You know, my first one, actually it's my third, because my first one is serving the master, but then basketball, and then of course I have to wet the hook every now and then, so I'm out on a fishing expedition. Yeah.
Well.
Oh yeah, I love the water. That's my second home.
Well,
that's my second
Coach,
home.
The only water I like is bath water. There's something about being out on the lake. True story. I went to Jamaica and getting on the glass boat, and I had to walk right out to the boat, and the water, I guess, got above my knees or my thighs, and I think I needed a drink before I got out there. I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know. And speaking of that, let me say this. Get prepared, everyone. Once again, it's storm season, of course. And it looks like you're going to have two.
Yep.
At the same time in the Gulf. And living here all of these years, you know, you never take those things lightly. So
no, you did.
Get prepared.
Yep, they should not.
And I'm sure the Creator will have his hand out there directing. And hopefully no harm will come our way. But it's always a serious situation. You never take them lightly.
Yep.
And speaking of taking it lightly, I could start with the NBA playoffs with you, but I'll start with Coach Banks. Last week we talked to him, and I'll go back and listen to the show, but I thought he was talking about maybe there will be an adjustment with SWAC conference basketball. Just a conference schedule only?
without him even saying anything, in my heart, I feel like they're going to have to go with that conference games only. Because what it does, it gives your student athletes more time to get ready. And number two, it gives the virus, it gives you more knowledge about what the virus is doing. I don't think you're going to be able to play in November. So I'm thinking maybe January, and then you just do a conference schedule. So they come up with something like what they did with football, giving them opportunity to play maybe one or two exhibitions or something like that, or maybe one or two money games, and then just do your conference schedule. That's just me now.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them being able to start in November on time.
Yeah. And non-conference. And you know those type of games, and you know how I feel about them. It's going to be where you're going all over the country, so you're going to different geographical regions, and that's just not smart at this time.
Right. That's correct.
So with that being said, you know, hey, conference will really be important as usual, and you know we've had discussions and debates over the years about regular season champs versus tournament champs and all that. And I'm sure you still have those discussions, but now with playing in this time during a pandemic, would there be a possibility? I'm just putting it out there. Don't shoot arrows and send me hate email, although I like when you disagree. Would it lead to a different type conversation, maybe, to go to? No, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen with the regular season champion, because they've got a schedule where they're gonna still have the tournament championship. But I was just thinking maybe this is one time where just maybe you could have had a real deep conversation about regular season and just send in the regular season champ. But it's not going to happen, Coach.
Well, no, and I think the conference has already told you that through the football schedule that they're going to have a conference tournament. Because I think they left the dates open that week so that you can go to the conference tournament. So that I think the football teams are off that week. So I think their mind is already made up that they'll do a conference tournament. So it'll be basketball as usual. I think the only thing that is going to be different this year, you may not play that non-conference schedule. And every men and women's basketball coach in the conference ought to be jumping up and down. They don't have to play all those guaranteed games. They just play a conference schedule.
Yeah, and I guess the competition will be even tougher because you have two-time defending champs, Prairie View, Southern University. Oh, boy. You thought it was going to be tough anyway? It's really going to be tough now. Playing the conference only schedule and then the tournament. I think it will be exciting.
Right. I think it will be exciting. And I think what it does is every game counts. That means that from the get-go, you got to have your troops ready to go. And I think the kids will buy into it. I think the coaches will buy into it. Whether or not they'll be able to have fans, that's a different story. But they gotta look at what the NBA is doing. Those guys are giving maximum effort, and there are no fans in the stands. You know, on some of our campuses, maybe we can do some of the same things. Go with virtual fans and move forward with that.
Well, you know, that's interesting because as now I bring up the NBA playoffs and the setup and the bubble, exciting. The games have really been exciting. Now I'm still wondering, and Charles Barkley brought it up again, defensively, why is the defenses that far behind the offense? Or am I missing something, Coach? I mean, maybe you explained it last week, but well.
Yeah, the guys are saving themselves for the offensive end. It takes more effort to play. It takes more effort to play defense, and then you got to be physical on the defensive end. And some of the guys, They don't want all that contact right now because still in the back of their mind, they're still thinking about the virus. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Well,
we won't know. Just like we don't know any. Just like we can't understand and figure out this virus. There are too many unknowns.
Well, what do we know? What does Coach Pettaway know from what he's seen so far as they're progressing through the first round?
Well, I like the idea, the concept that they came up with the bubble. It's working, and I just think it's an amazing feat for them to have 0 people to test positive. I think that's amazing, and that tells me a couple of things, that being isolated, being tested first, then being isolated with all people that you know that don't have the virus, you can control the virus by not getting involved in it. So those people staying in the in the bubble has helped them. It does not help us in society because we cannot. All of us can't be in a bubble. But I think they came up with an outstanding concept, and I just hope that they can finish the entire playoffs with 0 positive tests. And I think that'll be short of a miracle.
Now, and by the way, we're visiting with Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. Coach, the Lakers, big talk, Milwaukee. They lost games in the first round, but as true competitors, they were able to respond in a championship-like way.
Right.
And they.
But now,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, they both rebounded from their losses. But now I think Milwaukee is in a better situation than the Lakers because, to me, the Lakers, and well, it's not just to me, I think everybody's seeing this, they can't shoot the basketball from the perimeter. And then they don't have enough people that can put it on the floor to get to the basket. So that creates a problem. Milwaukee, they got people that can shoot from the perimeter and get to attack the basket. But the Lakers, I thought going into it that they were the favorite. I'm not so sure now because since they've been in the bubble, they're not playing with the same confidence. They're not playing the way they were leading the Western Conference before the bubble. They're not doing that. They have gone backwards since they've been in the bubble. So they don't have the momentum. And trust me, Mo plays a lot into the success of a team because you can go back to the debate about the SWAC tournament. You know, Southern was the hottest team in the league going into that tournament. Prairie View was faltering down the stretch. So that tournament, to me, would have been a toss-up. And if I had to pick a favorite going into the tournament, with the way, after seeing all the teams play and being there in person, I would have had to bet on, I would have been leaning towards Southern. I know, but see, this is just me. We will never know. We'll never know. But on paper, they were playing the best basketball. And I don't think right now that the Southern was doing that going into the tournament. The Lakers are not doing that now in the bubble. So it's going to be a tough road for them unless somebody can get hot.
And advice I would give to the Greek freak, I'm not going to try to butcher his last name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Giannis. Giannis.
Yeah, Giannis, a 6'11", freakish athlete. Would it be to his advantage, and not to say he hasn't done it, but this offseason, if that's such a thing, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 jump shots a day? Because this guy would be unguardable. But I think when you go up as they progress through the playoffs, he's not going to beat you unless he's just using his athleticism and driving to the paint and then maybe kicking it out. But I think he needs to work on that in the offseason.
Well, I think that's one of the things that'll be on his bucket list. to develop his outside game. And I think he knows that. His coaches knows that. I think that'll be on his wish list for the summer. Well, or whatever time they have, because now they're talking about even moving their season, the start of their season back.
Yeah, to what, January maybe?
Yep. Well, December right now. Yep. Normally would start in October. They talk about moving it back to December.
Coach, have you had a chance to watch Toronto? To me, I know Milwaukee during the regular season was the best defensive team according to the statistics, but man, Toronto,
they ball.
I could see them coming out the East because of the way they play defense. And Coach, you see how I'm such an objective guy. I know my team is maybe a year or two away, but they're coming. The Miami Heat, but Toronto, and I love the way Jimmy Butler plays. He's tenacious. He's tough.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler could have played for me every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah, he can get it done. Yeah, he gets after it, man. He gets after it. Yeah, but then when you look at Toronto, they got 4 or 5 guys on their team that do that. They do it on the defensive end. That's what makes them, to me, a tough out, because they don't mind playing defense. They get after people.
Yeah, I would agree.
And when you look at it, no big time stars on that team. As we see them, they just got a bunch of talented people that play together. They like playing together, and it shows.
And what do they say? Team ball.
Correct.
They really, team ball. Toronto, Miami, they play team ball. No stars.
Right.
But they just get it done, and it's gonna be interesting, Coach, to see how the rest of this playoffs go. Do you want to hold off on a prediction?
Oh,
who's gonna make it to the finals?
Right. I think you do. But if you held me down today, I would say Toronto out of the East and out of the West. To me, I think it's going to be the Clippers. I want the Lakers to win, but I don't think they're going to pull it off. Because if they get past this series, they got to play Houston. They don't do well against Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's going to be OKC. Yep.
Coach, another thing, and I'll make sure I won't get accused of tampering here. I'm going back to Miami, but I'm also thinking about Jimmy Butler, and I'm also thinking about Embiid at Philadelphia. What a talented guy! You see the moves he has, but he's a head case. He reminds me of Whiteside, but he's better than Whiteside.
Oh yeah.
Will he be in Philly in the next couple of years, or do you see him going somewhere else?
Well, I think the management is going to have a big decision to make this off season because I don't think it's working out with he and Simmons on the same team because they can't seem to put it together, and they got to decide who is going to be the future of the franchise, Simmons or Embiid.
I got to look at his contract. What he has left.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. This show is being recorded.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to call Pat Riley. But I don't know. I could see him in a different culture, basketball culture. But I'll leave it at that. I just wonder, and I think their coach is in trouble too.
Oh yeah.
I'm pulling for him last night, and it's just. They just didn't get it done at the end, but
nope. I've never been in favor. When you look at their personnel, to me, the shots that Embiid takes from the three, if he spent that much energy in the paint, to me, their team would be more successful. Plays away from the basket.
I agree 200%. But why is he out there? Isn't that the coaching staff that demands he get down in that post and wreak havoc?
Yep, that to me that's what I would demand of him. 90% of his shots to me should be in the paint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm perplexed at that one, but he should be. I mean, again, very talented.
Yeah.
I mean, physically gifted. I mean, if he could, and he has an array of moves down there. He has good footwork. I mean, can you see him with a fall away jumper like James Edwards used to do? That would be unstoppable.
Yep. But see, the thing, we better enjoy him while we are seeing him, because he's been injury prone. That's what started his career off so on the wrong foot, because he was always hurt. So he didn't develop as fast as some people wanted him to, but it was always because he was always injured.
Yeah. And when you have foot problems, I mean,
yep,
that's to a basketball player. My goodness, ask Bill Walton about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Coach, as always, I'm gonna let you get back to that fishing.
Yeah.
You're not catching any redfish right now.
No. We're not doing redfish up here. We're doing white bass and catfish. This is not I don't like tournaments because you have to catch and release. I catch and keep. So I'm
and then eat.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? That goes back to the SWAC. Larry Wright down at Grambling. Another coach. Great coach in the SWAC, basketball. Number one favorite hobby, fishing. We went to one of the conference meetings. I think we was in Biloxi. And they got a pier out there. Man, they was looking for us. We were out there on the pier fishing. And we were supposed to be in the meeting. Yeah, fishing is the thing, man. It's the thing.
Relaxing, and it's a sport, and then you get a chance to eat what you caught.
Right, and see, we at Alabama A&M, that's one of the things that I miss with the coaches. I'm with one of the coaches today, that's still coaching at Alabama A&M. But fishing is relaxing. Fishing is fun. We're networking. We've got our social distance because we are on a pontoon today. We're not in a bass boat, so you can't beat it. And then at the same time, I'm fishing, and I'm talking to two of my favorite people. So you can't beat this with a stick. Great Saturday.
Great Saturday.
Saturday.
We appreciate it, Coach. Finish that fishing and enjoy that catfish on me.
Okay. All right. I'll shoot you guys some pictures, man. Hey, be safe. It's been great. And let everybody be safe. And hopefully, if the good Lord willing, we'll do this again next week.
Yes, sir. That'll work. Appreciate you.
All right.
And that was Coach. Thank you. Have a great weekend. That was Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show basketball analyst. Take a quick time out. Rod Walker is waiting of the New Orleans Advocate. We're going to talk some more NBA, but specifically, what's going to happen with the Pelicans? And as far as Gentry he's gone. Who's going to be the next coach? Zion. What is up with him? And then I'm going to just point blank ask him. This is what I think of the Saints, and this pains and hurts me deeply. A great regular season team, but just an average playoff team. The time is now. The time is now. The window is short, and it's closing. Am I totally off base on that? I'll ask Rod Walker. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. The final guest of today's show. It's been a while since I talked to Mr. Rod Walker of the Times-Picayune's Advocate, New Orleans Advocate, just a great guy. Rod, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Rod, I have my notes down, and we're going to talk a few things quickly here, but when I get to the Saints, I'm coming up with a big statement. This is my own personal statement, and I'm going to see what you think about the statement. But first and foremost, I want to start off with the Pelicans. Of course, Gentry is no longer the head coach. What is the direction that you think the Pelicans are going to go as far as getting their next head coach?
We talked to David Griffin, the executive VP of basketball operations for the Pelicans. I guess that was last Saturday, the day after the firing or the day of the firing, and he made it sound like they don't have any particular criteria they're looking for. I mean, they may go for. He basically said, they're not looking for, it doesn't have to be a guy with experience or a college coach or a proven assistant. They don't really have like a certain thing they're going for. And he made it sound like this process is going to take a while. And I know obviously with the NBA playoffs still going on, I mean, I think there's some guys on some of those teams that they're going to want to interview, and some of those guys, may go deep into the playoffs. So, I mean, I think this process could be a while. And he wants to do it in person. So, I mean, he don't want to do Zoom teleconference interviews. I mean, he wants to sit down and bring those guys in and, just do a thorough process as far as interviewing. So I'm not really sure what direction he's going in. Obviously Ty Lue is a guy who he has connections with from their days together with the Cavaliers. So I think he's a guy that, I think his name's going to be on a lot of these lists you see floating around. I think he'll be on there. And, you look at what Jock Barnes done in Brooklyn, and to me, I think a lot of this is going to come down to, you look at the coaching jobs that are out there now, the Brooklyn job is open. Yeah. Assuming they don't move Jock up. The Sixers job might be open. Who knows?
It should be.
The Bulls, they haven't hired anymore. And, there's some really good jobs out there. And I don't know if the Pelicans is the first job on. I think Brooklyn is, to me, that's the job. With Katie and Kyrie coming back. Mm-hmm. So I think Brooklyn is going to have first dibs on whoever they want. And I think the dominoes sort of fall after that. That's just how I see it playing out. I just think that's the premier job right now. I do think this Pelicans job is one that a lot of people are going to want too, though. I don't think it's, I think Brooklyn's first, but I think the Pelicans are probably right behind there. And if the Sixers make a move, their job would be one that people would be interested in too. But there are going to be a lot of coaches wanting to hire Zion. Are going to want a chance to coach Zion. So, I think Griffin's going to have a chance to hire a really good guy. Or girl, I say guy. I mean, I can't rule the women out.
Yeah, but the young lady at the Spurs, they say it's only a matter of time. And hey, I could see that, but for a minute I thought you clarified it that the Pelicans job wasn't attractive because tell me if I'm wrong. I look at the roster, and they may have to make some moves. Like with Holiday, would he be a tradable piece? But do you feel that this roster pretty much is a good roster minus a few tweaks?
Yeah, I think it's a really good roster. That's why I say I think it's a very attractive job. I mean, like I said, I put Brooklyn first, but I put the Pelicans second, and I think when you look at the tradable pieces on here, I mean, I think you keep Zion for sure. You keep Brandon, I think, B.I. for sure, and I think some of the other guys are, they're tradable. I think this team's going to be willing to, make some roster shifts, and I think Drew is. And I like Drew a lot. I think he's the guy on this team that everybody would probably want. I mean, because you can probably put Drew on some other rosters, and you might have your championship team because he's just so good on, especially on the defensive end of the court. I mean, and there are going to be a lot of teams that I think you can plug Drew in on those other teams, and so they don't want him. So I think it's just going to be a matter of what they can get back for him, and that's where what David Griffin gets paid to do is trying to figure out if he's getting a good return on on getting rid of somebody like Drew. So, I think this team has some really good pieces.
I can see Holiday on another team, but I'm not going to bring that up. But he's a solid shooting guard and defensively tough. But Mr. Williams, what's the deal? Is it? I hear the national prognosticators talk about they don't believe he's dedicated enough in his being in shape. Some have said they think that maybe he's still injured. He's not 100% healed. What does Rod Walker think?
I just think he's a guy who's, again, he just turned 20 in July, and I think getting in shape has been probably an issue for him, just because he's never, that's a big difference between the college and the pro game. I just think he hadn't gotten into shape, and I think that's something that this off season, I think they'll have to really spend some time in making sure he understands it, because you look at how his rookie season went, though. He battled, he had the procedure on his knee right when the season started. So he went through that. Then he comes back and he's trying to work his way into shape. Then all of a sudden the season gets shut down again. Then he has to I don't know what he did during the the pandemic when the league was shut down. But then all of a sudden you got to try to get him back in shape. And I just don't think I don't think he's really wired for that yet. But I think now he understands it after going through it a year. And I think this off season, I think that'll be what this team will do. They have a medical staff that's supposed to be one of the best in the league. So, you'd like to see him come back in tip-top shape. And, monitoring minutes is, you kind of feel bad. Not kind of, you feel bad for Alvin Gentry having to deal with that. You can't even play arguably your best player because you got the medical staff coming over telling you, oh, it's 5 minutes up, time for him to come out. And, I can't imagine trying to coach a superstar like that. So hopefully Zion gets in shape and be the player that we saw plenty of flashes of his potential. There was some defensive deficiency, I thought, in the bubble in those few games he played there. But I think he's a talent, and I just think he's got to just get in shape and eat right and just do all the right things that it takes to be a superstar in this league, especially because he's not. You look at his body type, he's just not your normal guy, so he's just going to have to really, really regulate it. Yeah.
Well, and that's why, in my opinion, some people have said, well, you need a player's coach, but I really believe a coach that has played the game, made it up through the ranks. I look at an Avery Johnson or for some reason Mark Jackson just can't get, even a look. But one of those, I think you need almost, to me, an old school coach that will come in, set the bar, and I think he may flourish under that. But I know the athletes of the day are kind of a different breed.
Right.
But you just, I see the potential, and you just, you hope the Pelicans are able to get better from top to bottom and participate in the tough Western conference that is really tough.
Yeah, and that's, you mentioned the Western Conference. I was kind of looking at it today. You look at those teams that are in the playoffs from the West right now, and most of those teams aren't going to drop off next year. Maybe OKC if Chris Paul league. I don't know. They may not be a playoff team, but all those other teams are definitely going to be in the playoffs. Golden State's going to be back in the playoffs. Things looks to be improving. So, even if getting into the playoffs in the West for the Pelicans is still going to be tough. So there are no guarantees, and this team could be better next year and still not make the playoffs just because the West is that strong. Yeah,
and I look at this Pelicans team defensively. They struggled all year, but especially in the restart. My goodness, they're going to have to start there too. That's another important factor. But speaking of the playoffs, quickly in the Western Conference, it's the Lakers or the Clippers coming out. You think?
I had to
hear
get some money on it.
You're not told, huh?
You heard it right. No, those are the two teams that everybody's picking. But man, I don't know why, but for some reason, and they stuck me in every single year. So, but I still think the Rockets have a shot. And I know that.
Rod, the beard.
Every year they get me, man. And I know that style of play is not, it's not really, doesn't typically work in the playoffs, but.
They dangerous now, Ron. Trust me.
No, but just even watching their first two games against OKC, I think they're playing better defensively, and they're playing without Russell right now. I think when he comes back, I think it's a dangerous team. And I'm not, going into this thing, I thought the Lakers were the team for sure, but man, I just don't know if those other guys are going to be consistent enough. AD and LeBron are going to probably get theirs, but KCP and Caruso and Kuzma. I think one of those they're going to have a third guy to step up every night, and I just don't know if they're going to be consistent enough to do that. So
that's the key word, consistent. And I think that for some reason I just say the Clippers they're deep, and they've got a great coach. But in the Eastern Conference, who do you like?
Again, if I had to play,
on it.
No, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say Toronto. I think they're playing the best ball. I like how hard they play. They're really scrappy, and I know you'll like this, but I think Miami is a team that people probably aren't talking about enough. But no, I think they.
Don't worry about that
would be
mask of voice in the back.
That would be my sleeper. No, they would be my sleeper team.
Truth.
That would be my sleeper team. But I do think Toronto's playing the best right now.
Yeah,
I think they just have something. They just seem to have it, man. And I like what they're doing. And honestly, Boston's a team that, on paper, Boston's probably, if you look on paper, I think the Clippers and Boston are probably the best. I think they're playing the best and probably have all the pieces and enough depth and all that stuff. But I don't know. I do think Toronto's probably.
Yeah, well,
just have that.
My prediction: 11:48 Central Standard Time, the Clippers in Toronto again.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
and I appreciate the objectivity with the Heat. I think they're a player and a year two away, more a year away. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous. Speaking of dangerous, as we switch gears here, 11:48. Here's my statement about the Saints. Great regular season team. Great. Average playoff team. Now is the time, and I know there's a pandemic going on, COVID-19. Time is now. The pressure is on the Saints. They looked the part, but you know what, Rod? Doggone it. And I almost cursed. I have not liked the way the season has ended the last few years, and their opportunity to win it all is closing. Do you agree? A great regular season team, but just average in the playoffs as of late.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue that. I mean, look at what's happened these past 3 years, and they definitely haven't shown up in the playoffs. You know, you look at that Minnesota game. I don't think that was a Super Bowl team. I mean, I thought they were good, and they sort of, you know, you look at the game, they were actually trailing, and then they came back. And they were still going to have to go to Philadelphia the next week and win. I don't know if they were going to do that, but the past 2 years have definitely been disappointments. And, you know, I'm one of those people who also want to say, yeah, I think the window is closing, but I don't know if it is. I think Drew Brees' window is obviously closing, but I think when you look at how much depth this team has, and I'm just, let's say Jameis sticks around, I think if you play Jameis on this team with those weapons, I think this team is still good. So I don't know if the window's really closing. I think this team has really built a solid foundation. Again, I think when we say the window's closed, I think most of us are just thinking, yeah, Drew Brees' time is almost up. But I think, again, I think Sean Payton's a good enough offensive mind that you can plug another guy in there and this team will be really, really good. And I think they probably need to, you know, do some more things with a quarterback like Jameis, whose arm is obviously stronger than Drew's arm at, you know, 41 years old. So I don't know if the window is really, really closing yet. I think this team is built to be a playoff team for years down the road. And again, I mean, there's at some point you need to strike a lot of iron out. I mean, you can't just, you know, keep doing this and just be that team and get that label and people not think you're a contender. I mean, eventually they need to win it if they're going to be with this much talent. Wow. It's not going to be there forever.
Well, you know, Rod, that is interesting that you say that because I know you do cover I've seen you at the Bayou Classic, you know, in the press conference. Say that part again, strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, I think
I could go somewhere with that, but you know, I better not, you know, because to some people, second place always is a great thing.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to kick that door and strike while the iron's hot, because tomorrow's not promised. The next season is not promised. Well, there was that voice again that I can hear, and you can. Says Winston will could take the Saints on to glory. And Winston looks like he's lost some weight.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, because you could do with James. I mean, in Tampa Bay, I don't know if he had the. Well, he has some good weapons. I don't know if he. I just think he's refocused now, and I just think this is a good restart for him. I really think, and I agree with, you know, with what you said, that, you know, I think James might be the guy to take him to the next level. And if Drew wins some more this year, I mean, and walks out, I think this team could come back next year and be just as good as James. So I think the future's probably a little brighter than most people realize it is.
Oh yeah, I believe he deserves that shot.
Yeah.
You know, he physically, it's the best he's looked in a while. It looks like he's minus 20 pounds. He should have one.
You have to. Yeah, he's right. He has to have one for it. You know.
And he's going to go out and probably prove and say, hey, people have been doubting me, but you know, when you get the opportunity, because guys, when you look last year at now why does his name escapes me? Who's at Charlotte, Carolina Panthers right now?
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Bridgewater. He came in, managed the team. He didn't hurt them, and they were able to step up in other areas as well. And a lot of the Saints fans, from what I could see, they were kind of disappointed, but they understood, you know, you have to go make your money and the opportunity to start somewhere else, but the job that he did, and I think Winston can have the opportunity to have success as well.
Yeah, you're fooling yourself if you don't think that the Saints, and I like Teddy a lot, but Jameis is an upgrade from Teddy, and I mean, I think that, you know, people may not want to say that because Teddy is such a likable person, but I mean, as far as just a quarterback, I mean, you're better off with Jameis than you are with Teddy, and that's not a slight on Teddy. It's just saying that, you know,
no, I understand.
Better. Yeah,
Carlos, may I inject this just one piece, sir? Now,
go ahead.
A lot of people make a whole bunch of fuss that Jameson went 30 for 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. But one thing that people are overlooking, this brother couldn't even see last year.
Right.
He couldn't even see. He has the surgery to correct his vision. He gets to get the tutelage of a Sean Payton. He gets to learn from a Drew Brees. He already has the attributes of becoming a great quarterback. He started with a subpar system and program. The sky's the limit for the Saints. I hate to say that, but the sky's the limit for the Saints.
I mean, this guy threw 5,000 yards with Tampa Bay. Now, imagine what he could do with Sean Payton's offense and those kind of weapons around him. I mean, it's really kind of mind-boggling when you think about what the numbers he could put up in this offense and the things that he's already done to show that, you know, you mentioned him, you know, losing weight and trimming down and getting a LASIK surgery. And I think he can really do some special things in this offense.
Well, you know, he will get the opportunity, and when you look at other areas of the football team, defensively, now my other concern was, you know, the back end of the defense, the secondary, not Lattimore, but, you know, other pieces. Can you expect improvement in that area as well, Ron?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think when you look at, you know, just talking to just you know, talking to Aaron Glenn, and they think with Janoris Jenkins at the other corner, I mean, they think that this is, you know, one of the better cornerback duos in the league. And you know, Jenkins came in late last season, but you know, now he's kind of got to pull off season. And I think with Malcolm Jenkins, I do think Von Bell's going to be Von was really good. I don't know if people really talked about him enough last year. I mean, he was a playmaker and just created so many turnovers and was just always in the midst of stuff. But I think with Malcolm Jenkins back there and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's changed his name or something else now, I forgot what it is, CC Dukes or something it is. But anyway, I think the secondary's going to be good. I think the defensive line, they kind of raved about in camp so far about how Sheldon Rankin looks like he's back to his old self, and they're expecting Davenport to, you know, he's always shown flashes of his athleticism. They're expecting him to have a good year. So, man, I'm saying, like, all the pieces are here for this team. And if they don't win this year, I mean, it will be and I said this last year, I mean, I think this year will be even more disappointing because they upgraded. I mean, we talked about the number 2 receiver, and they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. And, man, I mean, this team isn't missing anything. So, I mean, it's just going to be a matter of, you know, finishing the deal, and I'm saying all that assuming that we even finish this NFL season because I was one of the ones. I think that there could be some issues, and you know, I think everybody's thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna play football, but I don't think any of that's guaranteed right now.
No, and that's a fair statement. And then you know they start the season off with Tampa Bay, the Golden Boy, who's like Drew, playing until maybe 46. Oh, goodness. But, you know, they start off the season with Tampa Bay. So set the tone early. Rod, I'm still putting pressure. Whatever they play, how long they play, if they don't have a Super Bowl, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a disappointment.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, this team will have failed if they don't make the Super Bowl. I mean, there's no questions about that. And I don't even think they need to win it, but, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said, but then my opening statement will be what I said about the Saints. Great regular season team, just average in the playoff. I hope I'm wrong. Trust me, I do. Yeah. I really hope, but I need to see something. I need to see them kick the door in. and not only get to the championship game, but win it.
Yep.
Because Ron, I'm getting tired of second place now. I'm seriously on all levels, and I'll leave it at that. Ron is taking a shot at Southern, getting to the championship, not kicking the door in.
Okay. Yeah,
I know. I'm asking for punishment. I know. On that note, Ron, appreciate it as always.
Anytime,
we'll talk
man.
again real soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Have a great weekend, Ron.
You too, man.
All right. Ron is just like so low key and cool. Yeah. Want to thank all of our guests, Dr. Travian Scott, Coach Van Pettaway, and Raj Walker of the Time-Picayune / New Orleans Advocate. Yeah, I didn't ask him about his article he wrote about the NBA. When you're up 3-0, just go ahead and say it's over with. That's serious and move on. Maybe next time. I also want to thank Dr. Michael Prince. Quickly, Dr. Prince, who are your guests tomorrow?
The guest tomorrow will be Coach Eric Dooley of the Prairie View A&M University Panthers football team and Coach Byron Smith of men's basketball, back-to-back regular season champions program.
Tell him he's lucky that tournament got canceled.
Well, you know how you spell luck, right? L-U-C-K, right? You spell luck, L-U-C-K, right? You know what that stands for? Labor under correct knowledge, and I'm out of here.
Tell him he's lucky. Have a great weekend, everyone. Appreciate you as always. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon for the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, peace and God bless.